Hello, my friends, and welcome to the app development community stand-up. I am here joined with Corporate Vice President of Developer Platform, Kevin Gallo. I love having these little soirees that we have. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing great. How about you?
You know, fantastic. So for those who don't know you, but they should, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into it.
I'm Kevin Gallo. I run the developer platform focused on Windows today. And I just enjoy working with developers and making sure they have everything they need to get going.
That is awesome. So let's get into the whole project reunion. The 0.5 SDK was released recently. Tell us what's going on in your world.
Yeah, I'm super excited that we've just released Project Reunion 0.5, and it's now in the hands of our developers. It's all about speed, reach, and ease. Devs can reach customers on their schedule since the platform is now decoupled from OS updates. You have access to the combined power of Win32 and UWP. You can also adopt features incrementally, one at a time, or you can file a new project and get access to the latest technology and the best components. We have features like WinUI 3 for beautiful modern UI. We have WebView 2 for modern and compatible web content. We've also added support in .5 for .NET 5 and 0.5 for .NET 5, package apps, MSIX, and more.
So this is all awesome. It feels like a lot of stuff. Is there a way we could maybe take a look at a demo to get a sense for what's going on, orient ourselves, and then we'll go to the questions?
Yep, that's great. I've recorded a demo. Let's take a look. Let me show you how to get started with Project Reunion 0.5. To show you it works on older versions of Windows, I'll be running this on Windows 10 version 1809. Since it's been around for a few years and it's quite common. Now to get started using Project Reunion, it's quite easy. There's two steps. First, you want to go get the latest preview of Visual Studio, VS 2019, version 1610. The second is you want to go to the Visual Studio Marketplace, search for Reunion, and get the Project Reunion VisX. So here is only one option. I select it, I can download and install it, and then I can get started. Now let me show you, if you're building a new application, we got several templates here that you can go use. You just got to filter here for Project Reunion, and you can get started with WinUI 3. But I've already built an application here that I want to show you. That way, we can get started pretty quickly. So let me first look at the project itself so you can see what's inside of it. First, it's just an exe because it's a standard Win32 application. We get to use .NET 5, so we have the latest version of C#. And I can build for all processor types, x86, x64, and ARM64. I have two NuGet packages. The first is obviously the Project Reunion one, and the second, I'll show you some interop code that I use for user. I have pinvoke for user here. So let me run the application and let you see it. Now that is an ebook reader that I've built using WinUI 3. And so here I land using navigation view. So if any of you have been around, and kind of looked around for one of the navigation view, you'll know there aren't many of these, and we're delivering a high quality one here with WinUI 3. So built into it is settings, so I can go to settings. I have things like themes built in, so I can look at dark and light, go back to the system default. I decided to show here that here's the actual path to the exe. That makes it easy if you want to go check it out or debug the application. And I can also here use the standard folder selector UI. Because I'm in Win32, I can see the whole disk. I can select where my ebooks are, and then I can apply changes here. And I'm loading the books now. So it's pretty quick here. And you'll see that I used a grid view to lay it out beautifully, just like you'd expect for books. So I'm going to click into one of these. I'm a big Charles Dickens fan, so I'm going to look at A Tale of Two Cities. And you'll see here that I have a control here that opens up and allows me to read it. This is actually our WebView 2 control that enables you to use the Chromium-based engine from Edge. So I can reuse this, get great HTML, and be able to select it and cut and paste it just like you'd expect in the application. Now let me show you how easy it is to interop with your existing Win32 code. Here to demonstrate that, I'm going to use a set window size. Obviously not something you'd normally do with interop, but it's probably one of the easiest things I can demonstrate. So here I wrote the API. I'm using this function that I wrote. I pass in my window that is backing the WinUI 3 UI, and I can just grab the hwin, do some math factoring here, and then I can call set window pause on the hwin using pinvoke, calling the standard code. Obviously quite easy, but anything else where you use the hwin, now you can do direct interop very easily. So at Product Reunion, we're really trying to simplify app development so you can build one app across Windows using the best capabilities of Win32 and UWP.
All right, so it looks like it got a little behind there for a second. Apologies for that. I think there's a couple of, I mean, maybe we could try playing again, Cameron. Did you notice that it was a little off? But if not, he'll tell me in the back channel, hopefully. But there was a couple of things that I saw, that I heard in there that were actually quite interesting to me. The first was how to actually get it to work. And then hopefully Cameron, if he's hearing me, he's our producer in the back end. Maybe we should play it again. He didn't see that they were off on his end, which is interesting. But we might need to play it again. So why don't we play it again, Cameron? Because I think it was off a little bit. Let's try one more time, Cameron.
Let me show you how to get started with Product Reunion 0.5. To show you it works on older versions of Windows, I'll be running this on Windows 10 version 1809, since it's been around for a few years and it's quite common. Now to get started using Product Reunion, it's quite easy. There's two steps. First, you want to go get the latest preview of Visual Studio, VS 2019 version 1610. The second is you want to go to the Visual Studio Marketplace, search for Reunion, and get the Product Reunion VisX. So here is only one option. I select it, I can download and install it, and then I can get started. Now let me show you, if you're building a new application, we got several templates here that you can go use. You just got to filter here for Project Reunion, and you can get started with WinUI 3. But I've already built an application here that I want to show you. That way, we can get started pretty quickly. So let me first look at the project itself so you can see what's inside of it. First, it's just an exe because it's a standard Win32 application. We get to use .NET 5, so we have the latest version of C#. And I can build for all processor types, x86, x64, and ARM64. I have two NuGet packages. The first is obviously the Project Reunion one, and the second, I'll show you some interop code that I use for user. I have pinvoke for user here. So let me run the application and let you see it. Now that is a ebook reader that I've built using WinUI 3. And so here I land using navigation view. So if any of you have been around, and kind of looked around for one of the navigation view, you'll know.
Well, it looks like it's still off. So we're having kind of some issues there. So let's get to the high points. And then because we saw a lot of it, maybe we can go from there. So give us the high points. The first thing that I saw was the install. The second thing I saw was the app itself. So if you can describe that. The third thing I saw was the WebView stuff that to me was interesting. And then the last thing I want to ask you about is the Win32 code, because it's interesting that, like I heard it, that you're able to sort of mix these together. So let's start from the top. The latest and greatest, where can people get it and how do they have it on their system?
Yeah, so basically it's two steps. get the latest preview of Visual Studio. It's version 16.10, and it's version 2019 preview 1. And then get the physics from the Visual Studio Marketplace. Then you install that and you can get going. Easiest thing then is to start either using features or you can file a new project. We have some simple templates to use WinUI 3, and you can choose to use a WebView, which is great. A lot of people host web content, or you can just build some great UI using WinUI 3 with a great navigation control and grid control. It's got all the widgets that everybody likes to use to build applications that are modern and fresh and look great. And the real beauty of it is you can do this as a Win32 developer. And this is something you haven't really been able to do. You've been able to do some interop, there's been some ways of doing it, but they haven't been hard. This is simple. You're running in an HWin just like you'd expect, fully interoperable in the same thread as the UI code, just like you'd expect a Win32 app to run. And so that means you can do interop. You can get the HWin and you can call HWin code. Now, a lot of .NET developers probably aren't doing a ton of that, but if you do, it just works. It's seamless. There's no complexity. It runs, single thread apartment and those type of things that just work nicely on Win32. So, as a Win32 developer, it's just really easy to get going.
So those are awesome. The one thing that was interesting to me is because I saw this book app, I didn't know that ebooks were basically like HTML in the back end, zipped in a crazy way. And so talk about the WebView too. Is that something that's part of the WinUI stuff?
It is and it isn't. I mean, if you're using WinUI, you can use WebView. But if you happen to be using WPF or if you happen to WinForms or just the C++, your own custom framework, you can use the new WebView 2 as well. So it's all about trying to make sure that we move people forward into the modern web on a Chromium-based engine, and you can go use that. So I'm showing it here in WinUI 3, but you can use it really in any of the standard UI frameworks.
That's awesome. And then the last thing that you started to get into a little bit was this notion that Win32 applications, like you're talking like HWin, pointers to things. If you have an existing code base, let's just say that leverages some of P-invoke and other things, traditionally you were not able to use that from standard .NET applications, but you're saying that you can actually use that seamlessly in the newest stuff. Is that right? And how does that work?
Yeah, there was these divides. That was this challenge that we had that we fixed or in the process of fixing between UWP and Win32. You kind of had to live in one world or the other. Now you can live in, I'll call it just the Windows world. And you can just write a Windows app and you'll get access to all the latest features. And the threading works the same. And the security container works the same. Access to the file system. One thing I did show is you can pick it from anywhere on the file system. If you wanted WinUI before, you would have to actually put a UWP, which had a slightly different model for how you'd access the disk. So some of your code might have worked, some of it may not have. Now you take any existing code, you can refresh the UX, get modern either WebView 2, WinUI 3, or a combination of the two. But it's not even just about HWin, it's just about the threading code. It's just the simple code that you've written that just does a lot of the application interop and interaction in the system. It just will work as it used to work because it's just an exe. It has a WinMain. It's I was going to show the WinMain entry point that yes, it just comes into WinMain, which is a simple model and it works for many applications that are out there. And so we want all of them to refresh their UI and get a modern experience.
That's cool. So generally, the implication, like when I was doing full development work on Windows, the idea was that if I wanted to make a new thing, I would literally have to knock the entire building over, rebuild the foundations up from scratch. What are the implications for folks that have already existing things that they've written for Windows and they want to move it forward into this new, updated environment, take advantage of the App Store, etc.?
Yeah, the goal is that you adopt the feature you want on the timeline you want. Many people want to adopt 5 or 6 features, but you're not going to do them all at once. And forcing them to update all 5 at once kind of put the developers in, I think, a tough spot. Now you can pick. If you just want to update your packaging and you want to publish to the store, you can go do that. If you want to just update your UI, you can do it. If you want to just use the modern web, because you've updated your website to use some feature, you can now also put a WebView in there to share that website. So the goal is that help developers incrementally keep modernizing their application So that over time, obviously they adopt many of the features, but any single step can be incremental and be directly tied to customer value that they need at that moment.
And that's really cool because traditionally it's like, oh no, I gotta start over again. And you're saying that if you already have existing things that are core to your business, bring those forward and do refresh over the top, and that would still work. And then you can literally move those things over to more modern stuff as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing this. I mean, the Windows is the growth of Windows has actually been dramatic over the last couple of years. We're seeing huge growth, energy going into desktop development. So these very sometimes large, sometimes smaller, but usually fairly complex desktop applications that have mission critical businesses that are built on top of them. They want to modernize too. They want to take advantage of all the great windows, larger screens, multi-monitors, and they want a UI that gets them there. They want to have better deployment, better reliability, low customer impact, deployment. These things that are maybe not, some of them are fancy like UI, some of them are, I just don't want failure in my install rates, my customers to call up my support lines. And you can modernize the one that helps you get your customers over the line at the right time. And it's really about re-energizing desktop development because we're just seeing so many people spend lots of time, lots of minutes on their desktops, and they just, it's a new opportunity for developers to really grow their business with that surge in usage on the desktop.
Hence why it's called Project Reunion. See what I did there, Kevin? All right, let's
awesome,
get some questions. Yeah, well, we should have done it together. Project Reunion. Nice. All right, so let's get some questions. How are WPF and Reunion related now and in the future?
So WPF is one UI framework that's been used, very popular in .NET. And you can use Reunion components in your WPF application, just like you can in your WinForms application. So they're related in the same way that WPF app is a desktop app. And now Reunion really allows you to adopt the newer technology and use it inside of your WPF app. We don't have a thing we call XAML Islands yet. We're working on getting XAML Islands. This will allow you to interop WPF UI with WinUI UI. So you can adopt the controls independently. That will come, and then you'll be able to modernize it. But even then, WPF UI can be there, and you can use other features like MSIX or some of the interop using .NET 5 and those components.
Okay, so here's a little question for me because, again, I'm ignorant and I have not done Windows stuff in a little bit. What's the difference between UWP, WinUI, and WPF? Just to everyone can be centered, because there's a lot of acronyms up in here, and I want to make sure I got them all right.
UWP was a way that an app ran on the system. Win32 would be the other way they run, either in a container or not. That's what we're combining and fixing. So really, you're just writing a Windows app. You don't have to worry about the way it starts up, the way it activates, and those type of things. WPF is a UI framework that we introduced, I think, in 2005. I was one of the first people working on WPF. And it's a way in .NET to go and write UI. WinUI is a more modern way to do that. It has more of the characteristics of Windows 10 and features that are like your nav control and those type of controls. And so those are two different UI frameworks. WinUI supports C++ as well as .NET and allows you to build now for desktop or UWP. Before, it was only for UWP. So now we've kind of unlocked it. So now it used to be if you wanted desktop, you'd have to write WPF. If you wanted UWP, you'd get WinUI, and the two never met. Now you'll be able to just build a Windows app choosing the UI framework you want to go use based on needs of your company or existing code bases. And you don't have to worry about this chasm of choices. So I hate to get into the dirty laundry I'm trying to reunionize, but It used to be you have to live in these two choices that were always hard to make, like existing code or modern experience. Those go away. You can kind of choose both.
That's cool. So is there an easy way? Let's just say someone invested in UWP. Is there an easy way for UWP devs to move to a WinUI desktop, for example?
Yeah, they have access to WinUI 2. And we're working on making WinUI 3 available to them. And the difference there is WinUI 2 is built in, which means it updates at the speed of the OS. WinUI 3 is decoupled. which means that when you want to ship your app, you ship your app to all your customers on Windows. And that's a huge change for us. I want everybody to understand, like, developers were frustrated because they'd have to wait for Windows update. You no longer have to do that. You can use the latest SDK. And then when we release a feature, you can release your app to all the customers of Windows at once on your schedule right away. And that's an amazing value for customers to reach, because Windows doesn't all update at the same rate. And so but you want to reach all your customers at the same time. So that is what allows you with WinUI 3. So we're working on making that available to our UWP customers. And so that's sort of how the two relate right now.
That's awesome. So with all of this goodness, is it safe to do this in production? Like, is this an experimental thing, or is this something that I can confidently say, I'm going to start doing the modernization right now and get it out to my customers as soon as I can?
Yeah, we had two choices with Project Reunion. We could have added everything in preview and then did a 1.0 and said, okay, it's ready to be released. But you don't get a lot of feedback if customers don't put it into the market. So what we're doing is we're releasing feature sets as production feature sets and then having a preview of the next one. So the reason we call it a 0.5 is it doesn't have everything in it that we feel like we'd call it a 1.0. But if it meets your needs, it is production quality. So what is in it is high quality production code. So if you just need a WebView 2 and we WinUI 3 and that works for you, you can ship and it's ready to go. But you'll look on the edges and say, well, what about these other 5 subsystems or API sets? They're not there yet. And we're like, yeah, we know they're not there. When they're ready, we'll roll it in and then we'll drive those to high quality. So we kind of will have it as whenever we release, it is ready for you to ship on top of the features that are GA quality. And then there'll be likely a preview next to it that has the next set of features that are coming. And we'll be talking about those in GitHub, about which features are ready for production and which ones are in preview. But allows you to always be shipping those apps, us getting feedback live, not always in preview where real customers aren't testing it out, validating it. So we decided to go with the, I'll say, incremental approach and calling it a 0.5, knowing it has some gaps in feature sets, but not quality.
Got it. So you mentioned GitHub. Is this all being actively developed on GitHub, for example?
Yep. Everything we do is there in the open. We take feedback, and we really want everyone engaging to help us build this together. This is the days of us going off and building it by ourselves is kind of done. We want to build this for the customers, with the customers, by the customers, and that being our developers and the community. So we're doing everything there. We're taking feedback. We are discussing it, listening to what's the right feature sets to do next, what's blocking customers. It's really about building it as a community.
For those that are watching that are part of the community, what are the kinds of things that you want them to help with, for example? Does that make sense? Like, how can someone contribute? Let's just say they find this on GitHub. What are some things that they could contribute back to? What are some things that we're interested in hearing from them?
Yeah, I mean, so first would be, what features are blocking you? What are the most critical and what's the order we should do things? We have to pick an order. And that's hard. I mean, we sit there, we debate it many times, and the best people to know are the ones who are building, right? The application is shipping it. So just helping us figure out the order to stand it up, the features that are needed, the areas where they can innovate. Those would be, like, to me, the greatest. We're looking at having many of these technologies actually in the open source. Some of them are on their way. And so there we'll actually take, when we have that, we will take live contributions and they can actually contribute to the code. And that's something over time that we think will be more and more important, is that we actually build and write the code together. In trying to get it out, we're probably going to, I'd say we're trying to balance how much we put in the open source versus we just lift. Because a lot of this is code we've written over the years that's built into Windows that we're literally lifting out of the OS, putting into what we call framework packages. And then these packages deploy down to all versions of Windows. We don't have to update the OS. We bring this package of DLLs and it gets deployed. But the goal then is a lot of it gets lifted. So in this lift, we're prioritizing lifting a lot of it first and then open sourcing a lot of it second. And other ones some parts we're open sourcing right away. So there's a balance of doing that. So I definitely think the order and then helping us in contributing where we have the opportunity for that.
And that's awesome because, I mean, that traditionally it hasn't been that way. I mean, we came out with something and then we knew. But now that we're co-developing with customers, that's awesome. So is Project Reunion the final? Is that what it's going to be called?
So Project Reunion is a code name.
Got it.
Now, at the end of the day, I hate introducing new names because we have too many of them.
Yeah.
And I really want people to think of just a Windows app. So Project Reunion is this goal of changing how we work. We're going to do things in the open, decoupled, all these different principles. But ultimately, you're just building a Windows app. And so that's really the goal of not creating yet another name, just a code name. And then we'll just have Windows apps.
That's cool. So let's talk about, because we have some time left, let's talk about distribution. For those that are wanting to start to build in the Windows ecosystem, can you talk about what the distribution of an app would be like? For someone like me, let's just say I had an idea for a cool Windows app. How would I distribute it widely?
So there's a couple options, and really the goal is not to limit options. We're trying to set a North Star of what we think is the best, but you can continue to do what you're doing. So we will support what we call unpackaged. And that's just basically it means that you can wrap it all up into an MSI or a setup.exe. There's many tools that do that, and you can distribute it. And you can distribute either from your website, or you'll be able to submit that into our store so that we can distribute it for you. Or there are other stores, especially if you're a gamer. There are many stores out there that you can go publish to. And we really believe that's important that Windows remain an open ecosystem where developers can publish to many stores and commercialize their application or use websites. The second one really is about packaged apps. And we think this is really where we start to get, I'd say, high quality application deployments. We spent a lot of time on the technology we call MSIX, the next generation of MSI. And it's about trying to make it so that apps, when they get deployed, have super high reliability, low impact on the system, and your state roams with you. So if you're a WVD developer, if you're a developer that wants to deploy using WVD, and you can go deploy that with an MSIX, it's high quality, and we get state roaming, so your app can kind of move between your devices and not, in essence, have to always clean up its state, because we clean up the state for you and manage that. So there's these two ways of really doing it: unpackaged and packaged, and you can deploy them from your website, in stores, through WVD. Lots of flexible. We also support all the management ways of doing that. You can use Intune, SCC. There's many different ways of deploying applications because we have a rich ecosystem. Whether you're an enterprise, ISVs, gamers, we just want to make sure you can reach your customers where they're at in the way that makes sense for your business, or in multiple ways, however you commercialize it.
And that's cool because, I mean, to me, look, I remember many years ago writing a Windows app and spending all this time trying to make it super cool, only to get to the point where, I got to deploy this, and then it fell over for me. Can you describe the benefits of MSIX and maybe how someone would go about deploying an app? What is it like today with MSIX?
Yeah, it's actually, with MSIX, we've tried to make it really easy. You just have to go add deployments into your packaging. And so you set up a manifest that describes your app, the basic features and metadata of your application, and then it just builds it into an MSIX package. That MSIX package can be deployed from your website, and so you can do it the same way today. You can have a link. You click the link on your website, it installs. You can submit that to our store, and again, our store will just take that submission. They are, I think our install rate reliability is like above 98, if not higher. So very, very high install rate success, very high uninstall. When you uninstall the app, many times people uninstall it and then later on decide to install it again. You want that to be a seamless process. We also make sure that WVD works very, very efficiently with MSIX. So one of the benefits is you get higher density in your VM loads, which reduce your costs dramatically if you're using WVD. And in remote work like we're having now, that's super important to reduce your costs for running WVD and remote applications. So we got many benefits there. It's a declarative install, and that's one of the reasons why it's so high quality. It doesn't run scripts in the background. It doesn't elevate to install, scary drivers. It literally, end users can trust knowing that they'll have low impact on the system. You can always uninstall it, and you're in control of your applications. So it's a great end user value proposition, and it's really easy for developers to go and build and use.
So there's currently a lot of repos of Windows E type stuff. Are all of these going to be moving into like one repo, like the Project Reunion repo, or are they all going to remain separate things?
You know, it's something we we think hard about. You know, you don't want like the moving things in GitHub can have cost, right? And is it valuable enough to just say, oh, we want all in one umbrella? You know, right now we're kind of balancing where there were existing repos, like WinUI has one, like WebView 2, like and .NET 5, these technologies that are all becoming part of building apps. We're not going to pull them all into one repo. They make sense where they're at. They're factored in a good way. Where it doesn't make sense to have a separate one, we'll bring it under the Project Reunion one. And so you'll see us balance between the two. I mean, it's really just pure pragmatism. Sure, we initially thought, oh, let's bring everything together, and then thought, is that helping anybody, or is it a branding conversation? And so at the end of the day, we just really want to make sure that we do the most pragmatic thing for our developers. And that's one of these places where if developers have a different opinion or think we should do things differently, go to GitHub and let us know. We're just trying to serve the community here the best we can.
That's awesome. As we know, some reunions are better without certain family members. Just kidding. That was a funny So just to finish up, anything you'd like to say to the community to finish up, to tell them where to go and look for more stuff, that kind of stuff. What do you got?
So, go to our GitHub repository and just give us feedback. Give it a try. Tell us what's missing. Tell us what you need. Help us to really order the sequence of the product and make sure that it's what meets your needs. And if there are any rough edges, let us know too. We really want to know where we're kind of missing the mark. But you can get going. You can go to aks.ms/Project Reunion or go search in GitHub for Project Reunion. Obviously, as I said, to get started, you just got to grab the latest preview of Visual Studio, grab the Vizix, and you can get started building an application with Visual Studio. So lots of ways to get started, lots of ways to connect, but connect in some way and let us know how we can serve the community better. We really want developers to be able to build the best applications they can for Windows with the lowest cost and lowest investment that they need to. We really want that ROI to work for our developers.
Awesome. Well, this again has been another app development community stand-up with the awesome Kevin Gallo. Remember, go to aka.ms/Project Reunion or just search for Project Reunion on GitHub to find out everything that's new. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you next time at the next community stand-up. Thanks so much.